Okay, I hope you can see my screen now. Welcome back to our talk here. Our means, my name is Eva Pfanzelter. I'm from the University of Innsbruck, and my colleague Sarah Oberbichler has also switched on her webcam. And we'll be talking about external uses, and I think it ties in perfectly with what Axel has just been showing us. And maybe some of the features in the new platform become more clear, or the reasons why we actually implemented them become more clear after our talk. Yeah, we are going to speak in two parts, so to say. Basically, I am going to show you just one of the uses that we actually perform a lot when using corpora from digitized newspapers or also other digitized historical sources, and Sarah is going a step further, so to say, and she's going to introduce you to just some Jupyter notebooks that she has written. So first part, as you've already heard by now, in the DH group, or the DH group of the NewsEye project had several tasks to perform. Our main feedback feature, so to say, was to give, to basically try to find out how usable the tools, the algorithms, the methods that we try to bring together, how well they work for material that we are working on, like newspaper material, and how well they've worked for us as humanities researchers, as historians and linguists. For that, we use contextualized case studies. They have been introduced by Antoine already. So basically, we try to use classic humanities research questions and to perform some investigation, or to use the material that we have here in newspapers to perform these researches. And we try to use the results in several ways. One of the results that you've seen now with Axel is that we, during our project phase, we found out that we are actually in between two critical levels, so to say. We have the macro level on the one hand, where we do qualitative analysis of material, basically working on very small subsets of corpora, of in this case newspapers, of articles. Basically, we are working manually with material that we gather manually, usually with I talk about humanities researchers. And we have computational historical approaches, the macro level, sorry, I just turned it around, the macro level, where we do quantitative analysis on huge amounts of data, so-called big data research. However, most of our research, we found out, is in the area in between, so on the meso level. So basically, we are always, or many of us are always working with subsets or subcorpora of the huge amounts of data if we want to find answers basically to the research questions that we have. This means that we actually would need research-tailored corpora, this also means we would need that each single researcher at the moment where he does perform his research. And this has implications for the huge amount of data that we have here. That means we would actually need data, we would need tools and methods designed or tailored to our specific needs. These needs cannot be standardized. That's one thing we think we found here, and that's why we tried also to implement a workflow in our project where different needs are addressed. Of course, we came up with one idea that was, if we have good corpora, and all the OCR and layout problems have been addressed before, if we have good corpora, we could use existing adapted or newly generated tools. I'm just showing here a couple of those tools that we will be able to use, or we can already use at the University of Innsbruck, where Sarah and I come from. One of those is Orange, that's being implemented as a data mining suite, is implemented as a platform in Innsbruck. The same applies to Cyvers. Until this works, we found that we do a lot of NLP evaluations now with the NOPAC platform. That's a tool that's been opened not too long ago by the University of Göttingen, with the very clear exception that if you have a university email address, you cannot really register for this platform. So that is a bit strange, but otherwise it works. It seems to work really well for us for now. So NLP automatism implied here. Of course, again, we have the challenge of newspaper data that's being, that is a challenge, as we've heard, also for these tools. But that's what where we have done the pre-processing that Axel has also shown you, that was planned to be part on a larger scale in the interface of NewsEye. What else? Of course, we work with, how do we do this? We work with APIs. We're supposed to work with APIs, and there's a wide range of APIs available if you use a newspaper data, especially the new newspaper platforms like the just recently opened German newspaper platform. They are offering a wide range of APIs where you can access the data, the data dumps also. And if you have platforms like Orange or other data mining suites, you can then continue with all kinds of material, with all kinds of tools to process your data further. Here, the example from Orange again, that has, I think in the meantime, it has 3 API keys. Why do I show this to you in that sense? Also because it's easy for people working with digital methods to say, well, I just use an API, but we found again with our during our last workshop with the German newspaper portal that it's only useful for people who actually do these things. And actually we also need a way to make APIs easier accessible to the general public. I just name it like this, or to the general humanities research. And one of like the Orange platform would be one of those. The other probably would be, we talked about this, to just create simple notebooks to have people perform the steps to get access to the data. What I will be showing you today is Voyant. Voyant is a web platform, but we will be having a version of it implemented also at the University of Innsbruck. This has the advantage that data can be stored and processed again later. There are possibilities to do this also online, but I'm sure you see the advantage of having it locally installed, also because then the data remains in your hands, and we have problems with giving out copyrighted material to just any platform, as you know. Right. Now, if you want to follow what I'm doing, I'll just quickly copy here the link to the chat, if I'm able to, that is. Well, I hope I can access the chat again.
I can do it otherwise if you want me to.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, that would be nice. If you just want to follow me here, then we'll just keep on going to Voyant.
So yes, you should see the link in the chat right now.
Yeah, I can see it. Thank you, Sarah. So it should be available for others too. You could either upload the data sets that you have created in the NewsEye platform or any other data set that you have. You have various possibilities to do so. So you need, basically, I uploaded here is the JSON file, but you could also use just Excel files or other spreadsheet files that you have. Voyant Tools allows you to basically also upload data that is not in spreadsheet format. So you could also just upload here PDF material or text material of any kind. Of course, the more structured the data is, the more you get out of this platform. So Voyant here, we downloaded a corpus, a data set from the NewsEye platform, an English data set that actually deals with the Spanish flu in 1918. That actually was talked about a lot in European newspapers. And as you can see, very simple. We have a couple of visualizations here that, however, are important for us as humanities research and as researchers. And I'll just start with the first one. For example, here, this very simple visualization of the most used words. In a cirrus cloud, you can see which words are the most important ones. And being humanities researchers, I could, in this case, then see, okay, here we have a couple of talks, or we have a couple of discourses that I could get out of this picture that shows me, okay, first of all, that shows me one thing. What is this though here? Though is probably a mistake in the OCR, yes, probably. The Bureau is now busy canceling though allotments. Yeah, that looks like a mistake, a common mistake. So my first step probably would be to eliminate those words that are really basically are mistakes in the data set, or that I do not need for my performance here. Let's just maybe just get rid of this though in the stop word list. And don't worry, I'll talk about this again just to make sure that we have a little different picture here. What I can do with this word list is, I think, is quite easy for me. I can see what are the main issues, what are the main words that are being used here. But what I can also do, and this is one of the things I think is really important for us as historians, is to trace how these discourses, or how these words, the use of these words changes in the corpus. Of course, we would have to talk about what is relevant and what's not relevant, and how I organize my data. But you can see very clearly here that the use of words changes. It changes over time. If our sample were even bigger, like we had several newspapers and not just this one, or we had several languages, we could, of course, here try to find out where and how did actually news travel, how did it materialize, how did discourses evolve over time. One of the most fascinating or most important uses also for us as historians is this context bubble down here. We are basically focusing on a term that is very important in this corpus, and then we can see in what context this term is being used. Now here I just leave it with the predefined first most important term, which is influenza. And here you see all kinds of different uses, and you would have to cluster that more. But still, you could see, like here, there are no influenza cases, and so on and so on. but you could see in what context are these terms being used. Is this the right context for what I'm looking for? Is this what I want to talk about? Also, my next step would probably be to group how these terms are being used, meaning are we talking about deaths? Are we talking about cases, which we know in this case, of course, that there is going to be something like this here. What are the main topics, just to use main themes, let's say it like this, that are being used in connection with this influenza word. Speaking of which, as you can see also here, we have one feature that I think is also very important for us as humanities researchers. We can influence the word cloud. Now, of course, you could argue we shouldn't do that, because those are the most important words. But besides stop words, sometimes we have questions where we specifically want to eliminate the most important words like influenza and epidemic. In this case, that would make sense for me, because I knew when creating my data set, I would be finding, hopefully finding material about the influenza, about the epidemic in 1918. So just for the sake of trying it, I will just eliminate here from my stop word list also these important words to see what else is important in this corpus, as you could see before. And I first of all chose the English stop words and then edited that list, and in order to be able to add other words to it. So I will now, what did I say? Eliminate the words influenza, epidemic, and since I see it here, the Mr. Otherwise, I will have the Mr. in my priority list, which I'm not really interested in. And then hopefully see how it changes. Also over time. Now I have a different topic here that arises. We have especially two places, two spaces that are being talked about, like Paris and American. I would also probably have to look at this word new. If we have America, I could assume that it could be New York, but here, this is also why Axel showed it before. Here, I would be very grateful for a bigram or a multiprogram word cloud, which is not possible in Voyant. This is why we actually ask our colleagues to focus on these things a little. So what would my next step be? For example, let's just include this. Let's include this again, but maybe I can, which pink is this now? The cases. Whatever, let's focus on this deaths, and I could try to find out, besides all the context, I could try to find out, yeah, where this is used in the corpus, how it actually makes sense for me to use it, and if this is the death that I was looking for. So basically also this here as a help to let me try to find out if this is the right usage of the word that I have here. Maybe last but not least, one thing, of course, that we are always interested in would be phrase use. We don't have that, no. Would be phrase usage, would be the topics, and this is basically to give over to Sarah where she can continue basically. So also here we have a topic model being applied to the corpus. In this case, it's how many topics? 10 terms and 25 topics. Maybe that's a little bit too much for this basically small, for this rather small corpus that I have. Still, I could try to find here some topics that I can deal with: cases, deaths, grippe, number week, reported disease, medical. So this is quite clearly, it has to do with something with the Spanish flu, probably. It is in an English newspaper, so the word grippe, which is a German term for flu, is interesting in this sense, but I could imagine that it's being talked about that the grippe has many different applications, like one of them is the flu. So that could make sense. And here I have a good indication that a lot of these topics here, a lot of these newspaper articles here actually belong to this topic here, which of course makes sense since I selected it, selected the corpus to this question that I have. Also here you could see how these words are distributed over the entire corpus. So also this topic model helps a little bit to get a grip of the corpus that we have. And although, just to maybe quickly finish this, it would be nice to have all these tools and methods implemented in one platform. I think it really always depends on, first of all, the research question and on how much effort is it to really have everything in one interface, but or what are the other means on how we can actually get people to know these platforms and other platforms, to know the methods. So, and this is why we think we can go over to the point where we say, so what importance does education have, in the sense to what educational materials do we need to provide for these things to be available to a wider audience? And yeah, how do we actually make this known both to libraries, to the research communities, and to the computer science colleagues that are developing the things to help us to have a better access to material that we would again need to work on for our humanities research questions. Yeah, I think I'll just stop here. Yeah, and open up for questions.